You are in open session.
Wonderful. Someone want to open the door and let Zelda back in?
Zelda and Eugene.
Eugene.
Uh-oh.
Okay. All right. So what's the motion now?
So at this point, because this executive session was on a matter involving litigation, it would be appropriate for there to be a motion that the tapes be kept confidential until all causes of action have been resolved by final judgment, or when further claims arising from the matter are otherwise barred.
So moved. Second.
Any opposition to that motion?
So that could potentially be February 29th.
No.
Could be, although I would defer to Dean because there's still a time period where there's potential for an appeal of whatever RCA does. So normally you want to wait till all those periods elapse.
Okay, I just didn't know if
Yes.
that was the final.
Okay. Any opposition to that motion? All right. That motion carries. So we are out of executive session. We have time now for assembly comments. Does anyone have any comments to make? All right, audience participation.
I'd say thank you for doing this. Yeah, for knowing what's going on.
Mr. Wilson says thank you. Audience participation. Yes, you have 3 minutes.
My name is Eugene Cohen. I represent myself. I live in Matsu Valley. Follow the public process. When the public process is an appropriate decision made by the governing body is more likely in the public interest. In all the meetings I have attended, whether in Anchorage or the borough or the state, I've yet to see an executive session complying with how to conduct executive session. For instance, there was a statement read, which was, I'm not arguing with the statement that was read prior to going into executive session, explaining it, but they failed to have a motion to go in, to explain specifically why you're going in, and to identify, a motion to include identify all the parties that are in the room. For example, the assembly members, there were quite a few people from the staff present and so forth were in this room, but that didn't get identified at all. So with all due respect, only go executive session. Second is when you go out of executive session, you go into a public meeting, you got to vote to get out of executive session, and you failed to do that, and you followed through a motion to deal with records. I'm not arguing the question of putting a motion out, but you first have to do a motion to get out of executive session. And all those motions have to be in a public meeting. And the last thing to say is this. What's the problem here? Can't you meet downstairs in a public meeting and you go in executive session, go to another room and have that on the record, have the public to see a video audio? And note, for example, the agenda for this meeting, the notice for the meeting didn't happen until yesterday. More of the same. And I'll also remind you of witness like how the assembly went into looking at my much more time now. And just say more time here. I remember a scenario on this subject where the assembly had many meetings that day in City Hall, and toward the end, Assembly Member Compton said, in regard to a meeting that you were all going to go into for a public hearing on this subject, and starting at 5 o'clock. Clear, not an advantage for the public to be connected because it was at 5 o'clock. The main players were there, but the public who was there, most of the people in Anchorage were working. So the end result is you went ahead and allowed yourself to vote on a thing as you're pushing this in fast track. But I'll be using a certain word, not in this meeting, but in public later, in regard to how this continued tragedy is going on. And that ends my comment with 18 seconds to spare.
Thank you. I'll note for the record that this meeting was legally duly noticed with more than 24 hours advance notice. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
All right, we're adjourned.